for agreeing with the Gen Zs for taking a budget cut. Indeed, I want to appreciate the Gen Zs for forcing not just the members of parliament, but Kenyans in large for accepting to live within their means. And having said that, Madam Speaker, there are institutions that gained. I want to applaud the committee for looking at the doctors, the internship doctors, the JSS teachers, and the feeding programs so that our children can be fed. Madam Speaker, the elephant in the room, Madam Speaker, still we need to go further and cut our codes according to our size. There are ministries that are given monies that there is duplication of roles, Madam Speaker. If I may highlight a bit, the office of the Deputy President, there is money that is given for alcohol and for alcohol use. We also have NACADA. Someone will ask, why will we give office of the Deputy President such a huge money when we have NACADA who can also fight against drug abuse? And it's something food for thought. We need to discuss that so that we can also cut our budget and see, because we are talking of lean budget, those are areas we need to look at. Madam Speaker, I have heard my sister, Mudhoni, saying they were given 2 billion for the coffee. And that has actually made me think, for those of us who come from the northern part of this country, whether we will ever see a day we'll get 2 billion for the restocking of our livestock, or even those who fish, or those who do mira, and many others. So it's something for our budget chair to see so that even us, our livelihood can be improved. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I want to discuss on the ministry. Passaris will get a chance to serve, even myself, to serve in these ministries. So having said that, thank you. And hopefully for the members, the new members here, we have been shown the way, the Gen Z's way. Let us fight for our rights. Let us fight for us to speak here. We will not allow members who have come here thrice or 4 times to be repeating, and we sit here waiting for us days and days to just say one word. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Fatuma. Just to correct you, no CS has been appointed, just nominated. It is this House to take them through the vetting and finally the appointment by the President. I'll give this chance to the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute on this consideration of the first supplementary estimates for the year 24-25. Maybe, Honorable Speaker, just to exonerate myself, you know everything we say here is on record. And the Honorable Fatuma was referring to me when she was complaining about new members speaking. And maybe by now she should have known that it is the speakers that, or the persons sitting on the speaker's chair who decide who speaks, not the leader of minority, not the leader of majority. I also wait, like I have patiently waited to get this opportunity to contribute. But Honorable Speaker, let me say this first supplementary budget within the first month of the financial year is a very unique supplementary budget. Indeed, it is the second such budget, supplementary budget that I've seen since I joined this House over 10 years ago, the first being in 2018, which was also occasioned by changes of the Finance Act of 2018-2019, and those like Millie Odhiambo, who are here, we remember when we declined to approve the VAT on fuel. That occasioned certain changes to the appropriations bill, occasioning the first such supplementary, although that happened within the second to third month. This is the first time indeed in the history of Parliament that we are seeing a supplementary budget even before we begin implementing the budget. And it must not be lost on Kenyans that this was occasioned by the rejection of the Finance Act of 2024-2025. That rejection of the Finance Act occasioned a huge gap in our budget for this financial year, Honorable Speaker, and that is what has necessitated this supplementary budget this early in the financial year. The rejection of the finance bill occasioned a deficit of an additional 346 billion. And that tells you, Honorable Speaker, without this first supplementary budget, it would therefore mean that the government of Kenya goes out to borrow the entire 346 billion. Members will note that this supplementary budget is only reducing our budget by a total of about 146.3 billion. There is therefore another gap or a fiscal deficit of an additional 200 billion, part of which, Honorable Speaker, would be covered through additional revenue-raising measures and other austerity measures that will be carried on in the course of the financial year. Honorable Speaker, it's important to say this so that Kenyans get to understand that every finance act or every finance bill that consequently becomes a finance act comes to finance government operations and the budgets that we have budgeted for the people of Kenya. And I've heard many members lament this and that budget has been cut. Yes, this and that budget will be cut. And indeed, I heard the member of Githunguri complain that the coffee cherry revolving fund has lost 1 billion shillings, but failed to inform coffee farmers that they have an additional 3 billion shillings, but they would have gotten an additional 4 billion shillings this financial year. But also, Honorable Speaker, as rightly as she said, and she was asking, I don't know whether sarcastically, that whether dairy farmers or milk farmers are more important than coffee farmers. All farmers in the Republic of Kenya are important farmers. And that is why even dairy farmers in Githunguri, dairy farmers in Kikuyu, dairy farmers in Karachuonyo, dairy farmers in Bungoma, in Kandui constituency, and those in Kuresoi, south and north, will benefit from milk coolers, because it is a key promise that this administration promised dairy farmers that we will ensure that there is substantive value addition in the milk value chain, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, as much as within the last budget that we had just approved, there wasn't money for milk coolers and for dryers for maize farmers, we have now made sure that there are resources that are being allocated to ensure that we also secure the post-harvest losses from our maize farmers. We secure our dairy products by having coolers around our country in dairies in almost all our wards, Honorable Speaker. And I know we don't have adequate resources, courtesy of the rejection of the finance bill, to be able to roll out everything that ought to have been rolled out, Honorable Speaker. You have had many of, and this morning, Honorable Speaker, I had an engagement with the young people who keep sending us messages. A young girl called Jane, who told me she's a student at MKU, complaining that they have no access to university funding, Honorable Speaker. But I want to assure Jane and many other university students that the Committee on Budget has made sure that under the differentiated unit cost and also resources that have gone to the Higher Education Loans Board, no child, no student in university, no child or student in our TVET institutions will lack to access higher education on account of either capitation through DUC or either getting loans and sponsorship or scholarships through the Higher Education Loans Board. And these are some of the balances, Honorable Speaker, that we have had to do. That means, Honorable Speaker, that there will be a give and take within the supplementary budget, and that's why you see there are many other areas that we have cut expenditure, part of which might have been critical expenditure, but which can wait. And budget is all about prioritizing, Honorable Speaker, and we must be able to prioritize so that we ensure that even those who crusaded for the rejection of the finance bill are not going to suffer, Honorable Speaker, because they have opportunities that they will never be able to access. A child who does not access university education today cannot wait for next year or the year after. But probably a road in Kikuyu constituency that was to be constructed this financial year can wait. I therefore want to take this opportunity to ask Kenyans and to plead with Kenyans to be patient, because under these difficult economic times, under these times where we give and take, you cannot and we cannot have our cake and eat it at the same time. If we have no finances from the finance bill, then a road here and there will give way. A dam here and there will give way. Another project to do a hospital somewhere will give way. But, Honorable Speaker, that will come with the necessary and requisite responsible stewardship of the national treasury. And I want to believe, even with the nominees that have been named today, the Honorable John Mbadi, God willing, if he ends up being in the national treasury, he has the requisite knowledge, and he has sat in this house. He knows. He has been a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee when I chaired that committee. Honorable Speaker, I am confident that we'll be able to roll out this budget, be able to chew gum and scale the stairs at the same time, be able to cut on expenditure, unnecessary expenditure, and also be able to roll out critical development and other social programs in education, Honorable Speaker, even capitation to our day and boarding secondary schools, and also our JSS teachers, the JSS capitation, Honorable Speaker. All these things must run concurrently, even as difficult as things are under the rejected finance bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are certain things, Honorable Speaker, that were in the Finance Act or the Finance Bill, it never became an act, that would have helped this country also realize very many other developmental objectives. And for instance, Honorable Speaker, was the waiver or the exemption on penalties on tax amnesty, or rather the tax amnesty provision that was there in the Finance Bill. Honorable Speaker, I am hoping that with time, the Finance Committee will make consideration to see how we can rescue some of these very positive things that were demonized within the Finance Bill that would have done very well for this economy, Honorable Speaker. That waiver, or the tax amnesty waiver, Honorable Speaker, easily generates close to between 30 to 40 billion shillings, and at the same time allows business people in this country an opportunity to save from penalties that have been penalized by KRA on account especially of bills they have not paid, because government is also holding their money under the pending bills, Honorable Speaker. And I want to pray and hope that the Finance Committee and indeed the National Treasury are working on two ways that they can rescue some of these good things, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you listen to people speak about the creation of jobs, we say the bottom-up economic transformation agenda is anchored on job creation, Honorable Speaker. We tried, Honorable Speaker, during the Finance Bill debate to speak to Kenyans, and in some of the measures that were in the Finance Bill spoke to job creation. But unfortunately, under the circumstances, it was difficult to get that message across to Kenyans. When we spoke about the manufacture of diapers, manufacture of sanitary towels, Honorable Speaker, we were simply trying to safeguard local manufacturing to ensure that our industries are thriving to create jobs locally, to ensure that those industries are generating revenues in this economy, not exporting jobs to other countries in the Far East, not exporting our forex to countries in the Far East as we import. And I'm glad I heard this afternoon the President speak to it, that it is time we had a conversation as Kenyans as to whether we want to make our economy one large supermarket to merchandise products manufactured and creating jobs in other economies outside of our economy, or whether we want to make our country a manufacturing hub where we'll be able to manufacture sanitary towels, diapers, and all those other things, Honorable Speaker. I've had members contribute to the issue of farmers. And that's what I was asking about, whether milk farmers are more important. Those who are claiming milk farmers seems to be getting preferential treatment versus coffee farmers. That, Honorable Speaker, within the finance bill, we had provisions that sought to protect poultry farmers. Many of our peasant farmers are in poultry rearing. Others are growing potatoes, Honorable Speaker. Others are growing onions. We sought to protect the onion farmer. We sought to protect the potato farmer, the poultry farmer from cheap imports of eggs, of potatoes. What reason is there, Honorable Speaker, for us to be growing onions in Loitoktok or in Kieni, in Nyeri County, and allow the importation of cheaper onions from Tanzania at the expense of the farmer in Kieni? Why would a farmer in Mochongoi, in Baringo County, or in Kinangop in Nyandarua be growing potatoes, yet my famous KFC and other cheap joints in town are importing potatoes from as far as Mexico and Netherlands? We must protect our local farmers, Honorable Speaker. And these are some of the measures that I'm saying we will need time to now soberly look at all these things and know how else can we finance the deficit that we have. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, the revenue estimates that are contained in the budget that we approved, and even in this supplementary budget, are usually very optimistic. If you look at where our country is today, we have been told we are losing not less than 6 billion shillings. Every day we are out in the streets stopping other people from going to work. The import of that, Honorable Speaker, is that we may not realize the revenue projections that we have projected in this supplementary budget. The consequence of that will be additional borrowing. That borrowing will have ramification on our cost of borrowing locally in the domestic market, because you have to borrow from the domestic market. It will have an implication on how much business people, or the rate at which business people can borrow, how much investments they can invest in, how many jobs they can be able to create for young Kenyans. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I just want to speak to Kenyans and ask them, let us reason together. Let us act in a manner that we will not destroy our economy as we seek to fix that which we seek to fix in our country. It is possible, as I said, to chew gum and scale the stairs, Honorable Speaker, together. And I believe together, we as a country can be able to do that. We can be able to fix the economic mess that we are in. We can be able to fix our politics without fighting, without injuring each other. We can be able to grow this economy and get it to where it ought to be. And Honorable Speaker, let me conclude by saying this first supplementary budget, as I said, is unprecedented. But I want to believe in the next few months, inevitably, we will get into a second. And this year, I foresee even a third supplementary budget. And ask the National Treasury that as they begin implementing this budget, Honorable Speaker, and as the new government ministries and state departments take shape, they will need to further review these budgets further to be able to align them with the new governance system that will be there, and to ensure that there are further cuts, so that if the projected revenues that we project are not realized, then we do not need to go out and borrow much more. Because even that space to borrow more money, we have already we are almost hitting the ceiling that we set in this House, Honorable Speaker, and therefore it will not be feasible to continue borrowing. Honorable Speaker.
Time is up. Member for Chepalungu, Honorable Victor Koech.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I equally want to appreciate the opportunity you've given me. So I also heard my voice on the ongoing debate on the report by the Budget and Appropriation Committee led by Honorable Nyoro. I want to laud them and to congratulate them for the good work they are doing. The President, while refusing to assent to the finance bill, clearly said in his speech that austerity measures are going to follow. Truly, from this report, the Budget and Appropriation Committee has given us a report, and in this report, the Office of the Presidency, together with the Office of the Deputy President, has faced a huge budget cut to a tune of 4.2 billion shillings. This is a clear indication that what the President says is what is being done and what is being undertaken by our committees. Madam Speaker, we were so sad that JSS, our teachers who have been serving us as a country through or under internship, were going to continue serving us under internship. But the Budget and Appropriation Committee saw it well and gave us a solution. And now our teachers are a happy lot, and it is a clear indication that in a few months' time, their confirmation is going to come through. And equally, Madam Speaker, coming from a constituency that greatly relies on dairy farming, I am happy as a member because money for milk coolers is still available through this budget. And it is a clear indication that mopping up of milk is going to happen. It is going to benefit my farmers from my constituency and from the dairy farmers within the country. Further gains, Madam Speaker, on the same is the issue of internship. Availing money through this budget to recruit more interns is a clear indication that this country is moving toward the right direction, ensuring that the graduates who graduate from various institutions are going to be engaged somewhere as they gain experience or as we prepare them for future markets. But sadly so, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that whenever we have a budget, we equally have a finance bill which translates to a finance act which funds this particular budget. We were not able, because we lost the finance bill, to actually put into budget the money for last mile. This money was going to greatly help the constituencies, and especially the constituency that I represent, that is Chepaluko constituency. It is important to note that sadly, we lost 14.5 billion, of which each constituency was going to get 50 billion. It is now upon the Budget and Appropriation Committee, led by Honorable Nyoro, together with us, members of this House, to look into the ways that we can bring back this particular amount of money in September, so as to ensure that we increase or we enhance electricity connectivity within our constituency. They say, Madam Speaker, if you want to remain in power, you have to give people power. And if we fail to give people power, we'll be answerable to the people that gave us these particular seats when it comes to 2027. It is important as a House that we sit down, look into the ways of how we can bring back this 14.5 billion that was going to help not only my constituency, but all the constituencies in the entire country. Madam Speaker, it is sadly also to note that we lost 10 billion that was going to enhance CDF. We all know the amount of work, the magnitude of the work that is being undertaken by CDF. We are losing 10 billion that was going to increase money to our constituencies by a margin of around 30 million by constituency. This means for constituencies that have been left behind for so long, like Chepaluko constituency, that is still facing a lot of dilapidation of infrastructure. Madam Speaker, this money would have greatly impacted on the infrastructure within the constituency that I represent and equally to the entire country. It is now upon us, upon this Honorable House, upon the Chair, upon the committee, the Budget and Appropriation Committee, to look into the ways of bringing back this particular money so as to improve on the infrastructure of education, to improve on bursaries. In the rural constituencies that we represent, Madam Speaker, most of the people that go to school rely heavily on bursaries, and we don't announce it, it means that we are not coping with the increase in population. Madam Speaker, on the roads, just like any other department, just like any other saga, roads have actually faced a major cut. Entirely, as a budget, we are losing over 100 billion. Roads is a major critical infrastructure that is going to spur economic growth within our constituencies. The finance bill that was drawn out that didn't work was seeking to find and allocate money and appropriate money that was going to handle roads that have been orphaned for so long. In our constituency, cutting across 3 constituencies, that is Daraja Sita, Chebole, going to Chebunya and Emuru Adigiri, we have a road that was done, that was low volume, that requires maintenance. This money is not available simply because we didn't find money. We didn't pass, we actually passed, but it wasn't ascended, the finance bill. It is now upon this House, upon the Budget and Appropriation Committee to sit back together with the chair for roads and find ways. We need to find ways of handling these particular roads. There are major connectors, but sadly, Madam Speaker, they have remained unpassable for so many years. We've been promising, but the promise is not coming. It is now upon this House that we sit down, analyze our budget well, find ways and possible solutions of allocating money to these particular orphan roads. Because if they remain unmaintained for this long, we will lose the purpose for which they were constructed for. And Madam Speaker, having said so, equally, the 3 things that we are elected to serve our people majorly is on water, electricity, and roads. On water, if we are continue to underfund the water sector, then it means, Madam Speaker, our people will not access clean drinking and even domestic water. If it so exists so, Madam Speaker, we as a country are not leading in the right direction. And even as we lament and talk about this budget, it is not appropriate that we sit back and say we're not going to make further adjustment and allocate more money into water sector. It is now upon us, upon the chair, that we should allocate money to water. We should deliberately allocate more money to energy, to roads, and to education. Sadly, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education, or the Department of Education, lost money for infrastructure. This money for infrastructure normally comes in to add up to what CDF does. In a constituency that I represent, that so many schools are still in a sorry situation, Madam Speaker, this money normally comes up to add up to what I do as a member of parliament. Kneeling, or actually saying that this money is no longer available, is destroying a constituency that was going to develop further. It is now upon the chair, and I implore upon you, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, to find ways. The infrastructural money was critical to rural constituencies. We implore upon you, together with your committee, we will help you as a House to find ways of bringing back the infrastructural money. With so, a few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to say I support the appropriation bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Nairobi, Honorable Passaris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak to this historic supplementary budget. But before I go to the budget, I want to say that yesterday was a very sad day for my county. from the daytime when there was demonstrations. We saw the residential areas of Pipeline, and through the night, the residential areas of Zimmerman in Roysambu being tear-gassed, houses and apartments. It's a highly congested area, high populace. I spoke to the member for Roysambu this morning, Honorable Mwafrika, and he was equally disturbed by what was going on. I spoke to the acting IG, Douglas Kanja, and the Nairobi RPC, Bungei. And, Bungei said to me that, look, Esther, it becomes very difficult when you're having people trying to go to a protected area, and there are all roads leading to that protected area where there's also refineries which could cause more damage if somebody tried to tamper with them. So, it's a thin line. And it takes me back to what's going on in the Middle East, where we see the casualties of women and children because of a war that shouldn't really be there. And I really want to appeal to the Gen Zs. You have done a historic thing in this country. You are our children. I have 2 Gen Zs in my family, and almost every member of parliament here has Gen Zs in their households. And we listen to them and we hear them, and we understand where they're coming from. And they came out to the streets because the first thing they wanted was the finance bill to be withdrawn. And it was withdrawn. And then they wanted the president to go on X, and the president went on X. And then they wanted the cabinet to be dismissed, and the president dismissed the cabinet. And now there's a hue and cry about why do we bring back the same people. At one point I actually asked the Gen Zs, can you put your list together of possible people that you think could be able to come in and help with the leadership? There was no such list coming out. And at the end of the day, this is a constitutionally elected government. People went and voted. And they voted for the representatives that are in the House. Every 5 years, we have that opportunity to vote. You don't want to wait for 5 years, but you cannot disrupt the entire country. We've seen enough bloodshed. I hear Gen Z saying, we are not responsible for the bloodshed, it's the police. But we saw the infiltration of the Gen Z movement by criminal elements, by goons. And even in Roysambu yesterday, the people that actually came to Roysambu yesterday were actually people that were not from that county. The county was peaceful during the day, and they rained terror at night. So the thing is, as a country, we have to always look for peace. We have seen enough bloodshed, and right now, the government has formed a broad-based parliament, and I really believe that together we can actually be able to steer this country in the right direction. There were so many things in the manifesto of Azimio that could actually complement the government. And I know that Baba has the heart of all the Gen Zs, because for the existence of the ODM party has been 19.5 years, which is the Gen Zs. We have Gen Zs that are 12 years old up to 26 years old. The 12-year-olds are in school. We can't disrupt their education every day. We also have a lot of people who are unemployed. The unemployed and those who are employed are now also having challenges. We've had cancellations, we've had job cuts, and we need to actually put this country in the right direction. Everything that the Gen Zs have spoken about for stop the abductions, let's have arrests of the police that have done wrong. I have seen the president speak to all that today. We have had budget cuts. We removed the things that were unconstitutional from the budget. And I believe that, it's going to be hard for Kenya right now. But the employment opportunities for the doctors, for the JSS teachers, are going to be there. And we hope that the economy can be spurred up in terms of giving incentives to the private sector so that we can create more job opportunities, because our neighbors have actually benefited from the strife that we have in our country. Continue guiding. And today I was thinking, we used to have NEPA desks in every ministry. Can we have a Gen Z desk in every ministry, in every public office? We have retirements every year. Austerity measures might not open out jobs for us. But if we don't, if we can at least employ some Gen Zs in every ministries and have them run in the Gen Z's desk, they can make sure that they're the eyes and the ears for the president. Because structures of government sometimes are actually so bent on doing things wrong that we need the elements of the Gen Zs within there. In the counties can really help. If the counties were able to actually raise their revenue by reducing the amounts that they've been charging, they will be in a position then to be able to get more revenue, and as a result, actually lessen the burden on the people and be able to actually deliver more services. All round, we know that the Gen Zs are asking for more governance, they are asking for more accountability, they are asking for more action when it comes to corruption, they are asking for an end to opulence, they are asking for questions about how people became as rich as they are in such a short period. I mean, for me, I've been driving the same car I've been driving for the last 13 years. Sometimes I also question, how do people who come into parliament already have helicopters? We have questions that need to be answered, and I really pray that the president will deal with it decisively. We also see a hand of political meddling. An early politician, past and present, who's actually fueling the instability of this country, they need to be questioned and arrested. Any police that actually went beyond his mandate and did the wrong thing needs to be also arrested. There is a lot of healing to be done. The mothers who've lost their children are in pain. I have seen children saying how much they hate the government, how much they hate the parliamentarians, how much they hate everything. But you know what? We need to turn that hate into constructive ways of running this country. This country belongs to all of us. From independence, when the Mau Mau freedom fighters fought for this country, to today, there has been struggle after struggle. I myself in 2017, actually dealt with 97 bodies in this county. I actually was on the street, tear gassed over and over again till I could do it no more. It took me years of post-traumatic stress disorder to be able to deal with the smell of tear gas. I also want to say that we're going to be asking questions that the Gen Zs wants answers. What is that pink substance that is being taken through the water bowsers? Is that used in other countries? Is it ISO certified? Is it safe? Are we creating a health hazard coming in the future? There are questions that need to be answered, and we as your members of parliament will ask them. When it comes to the budget, I think there are some things that we have to do. As we tighten our budget, as we deal with corruption, we need to also ask ourselves, can we increase capitation? Can we make sure we pay for capitation? Can we make sure secondary education is free? Can we scrap all these bursaries in all these various entities, from the NGCDF to NGAF to MCAs to governors? Can we scrap it all and make sure that we have 100% transition? Can we make sure that the schools that have more students, we actually allocate money to classrooms? I think it is sad to see young teenage children who finish primary still at home because they can't pay. There are going to be some decisions that we're going to make as we move along. And I believe that we all have the best interest of the country at heart. I think we need to end the insults. We need to end the hate. We need to come together. And I believe that there is a space for the Gen Zs in every public entity. Every year we have retirements. Let's fill those spaces with the Gen Zs. Let's have a special Gen Z desk in every public entity so that they can actually look at governance. They can look at structures. They should be allowed. Access to information is a law. They should be allowed through every office to make sure that they actually help steer this country. Their efforts and their fight should not be in vain. Those who died should not be in vain. I think it's about time that we consider Gen Zs as we look to replace those who've retired. The Gen Zs, I celebrate you, and I am sorry for all the pain we have caused you. And I really pray that we can work together for the goodness and the greatness of this nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Kwanza, Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
Well, Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Having sat here from 2 o'clock, and as somebody mentioned, I don't know what happened, but that's for another day. I just want to echo, I think we have talked about this. My input in this particular supplementary budget is that, of course, we know why We are doing this. I've been here 3 times, Madam Speaker, and this is a very unique supplementary budget because we are doing it after, of course, before we have the budget itself. Therefore, I think we are just having the inputs, and I think the chairman and other people should actually take into consideration whatever contribution these members are putting. It's important that he takes note of it. One very important thing that I've noticed that we've had a lot of cuts. Now, we therefore should, as a guideline, let's complete the projects, the ongoing projects before, because we have no funds. Let's complete the ongoing projects before we start new ones because of the financial constraint. And of course, Madam Speaker, there's a lot of wastage in this country. Again, let's look at it departmental or whatever it is, ministry. There's a lot of wastage in some of the areas. And therefore, I think we should also look at it very critically and take that as a priority when allocated some little money that you're going to be allocated. And therefore, that is something that everybody should take into consideration because we do a lot of wastage here, and I think that should be looked at seriously. The only thing that I want to comment on this is that we have 7.5 billion on fertilizer subsidy. I come from Rift Valley, Trans Nzoia in particular, and we have to have this, the next season, we should have this money ready because, of course, apart from having a technical problem we had, we want in future, the next year, to have fertilizer ready. Madam Speaker, I'll be very surprised that fertilizer came and imagine there was no top dressing, very little top dressing. And so then, you know, that what will that lead to? Poor harvest. And that leads to another problem, which of course means we may end up importing food in this country. It's a shame for a country like ours, which has all very good climatic conditions and the soils to import food. But just because we have not addressed that issue of fertilizer, and of course I can see 7.5 billion shillings, which is good enough, but let this come on time. And again, as it comes, some areas maize grow very fast. Let's also have the top dressing fertilizer on time. As I'm talking like this, I'm told those in Trans Nzoia and parts of Rift Valley, they did not get the top dressing. So we'll have a very poor harvest. Yeah? And that is because we did not do our job well. Otherwise, I think there's some allocation. Apart from that one, of course, there is this matter of coffee. Let's again work on it very, very seriously so that it can be able to export. Because coffee in this country is one of the best in the whole world. Let's again work on it. Whatever it is, how for the people that are in agriculture and those who are devoted to assist the farmers do something that can be able to have enough coffee harvest for us to be able to export. Secondly, of course, we have these mini coolers. I want to thank the committee for having put 2 billion shillings on importation of mini coolers. That is important. I think I took advantage of that. And I have, in my 6 wards, have at least a cooler in each ward. And this has actually helped. One, employment of the youths. Secondly, the milk that we get from here can be able to, and we have sent it to Kenya, to KCC and other factories. And I can tell you, we have a very good market in the Middle East, particularly Middle East. I have been in Middle East many times. Those days when we were doing very well in terms of milk production, we had milk from Kenya. Today you go to Middle East and you'll be surprised that you get the milk from Uganda, and you wonder what happened to us. So that again is an issue that I think the committee want to thank you for having put 2 billion shillings for importation of the milk, and I think that milk coolers, I think from Poland, wherever it is, must be Poland. I think that is again something that we should be able to do, and do it well so that can be able to have market, particularly the Middle East. And of course, we're also trying to do zero grazing. That again will be able to go with the zero grazing. Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, that is something that will be able to provide employment. I think in 4 of the milk coolers have almost got almost 80 youths actually working in those milk coolers. So I want to request that the committee look at these wastages and at least there's a debt on that. Again, I think we can also negotiate the debt, the public debts, because we are asking at least to increase the funding on projects that actually can bring development in this country. And therefore, we can also ask the Minister of Finance to be able to renegotiate on the public debts so that it can be able to increase the funding to some of the projects that actually can create employment and, of course, increase development in our country. I think, Madam Speaker, I support this bill, the supplementary bill, but I think it's a very unique. We hope and pray that we be able to, God willing, we be able to go through, and when you get the bill itself, the financial bill, we'll be able to look at some of the issues that were put forward to amend. So that it's also not rejected. I think some of us are even here because, we voted yes, and that has caused a lot of anxiety to some of the people. Myself, Madam Speaker, I tell you, the youth invaded my home. So
it's out of order, Honorable Member.
No, I don't want to get involved. Madam
This
Speaker,
it's not your take, Honorable Ferdinand. What is out of order, Honorable Funyula?
What is he ordering?
What is out of order? You have your mic.
Yes. Chair.
Take your seat, Member for Kwanza.
Chair, I just want to send my sincere condolences, or my sincerely want to sincerely sympathize with my colleague who happens to be my brother-in-law for the loss you almost suffered for refusing to listen to electorates. I think you have learned your lesson.
What is out of order, Member for Funyula?
To work properly.
What is out
Thank
of
you,
order?
Honorable Speaker.
Member for Funyula, you're totally out of order.
I think it's out of order.
It is a democratic right for any member to vote anyway. Member for Kwanza, conclude.
I just want to say I think I support this supplementary bill, and I just hope and pray that we'll be able to implement. I talked when you are away, but I think I'll be able to discuss with you some of my suggestions. I support this supplementary bill. Thank you.
Honorable members, I know I've gotten a lot of interest on this motion and some questions because in the morning the debate had been limited to 5 minutes, but because we did not limit it on this sitting to 5 minutes, you cannot do that mid-debate. But honorable members, 10 minutes is a maximum. If you all speak and limit it, many of you will speak. And just to also note, today we are sitting all the way to 9 p.m. There is enough time for members to contribute. This chance will go to the member for Nandi, Honorable Cynthia Muge.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this motion. And from the onset, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that I support this supplementary budget estimate, supplementary budget 1 of 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, of course, when the budget came to our supplementary budget came to our attention, I was a bit disturbed, Honorable Chair, and I am a member of a Committee on Health. And Honorable Speaker, looking at the cuts that the health facilities were taking, right from Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Honorable Speaker, that was supposed to benefit from 100 million for a construction of a children's hospital to supplement the Shoe for Africa, Honorable Speaker. You know MTRH serves a very good number of counties, Honorable Speaker. Of course, my heart sank. Same to the ICU facility that was supposed to go there. Honorable Speaker, I was disturbed by the fact that KEMRI, which is the strongest and the greatest facility in matters advancing on the issues of medicine, Honorable Speaker, received a total cut of 400 million that was supposed to be meant for research and such kind of things, Honorable Speaker. Of course, Honorable Speaker, this makes my heart sink to see that Madari Hospital, that is handling the mental ill health issues, Honorable Speaker, in this country, received a cut, 100% cut, Honorable Speaker. And this is one of the facilities that we run to when we have issues of mental health, Honorable Speaker, or rather mental ill health, Honorable Speaker. Of course, it pained me, Honorable Speaker, to also see the national spinal injury, which is only one facility in the whole country, Honorable Speaker, that serves anyone who suffers from a spinal injury, Honorable Speaker. That facility is in dire need of funds for it to be upgraded and for it to be expanded so it can be able to accommodate and treat more people, Honorable Speaker. But this particular facility, Honorable Speaker, received 100% cut, Honorable Speaker, which is actually taking us back in matters development of health, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when you look at Kenyatta University Referral Hospital that was supposed to benefit from the cancer center, that's supposed to help us reduce the number of people that are actually going overseas for treatment, Honorable Speaker, receiving a cut, a humongous cut, Honorable Speaker, it actually broke my heart. But Honorable Speaker, looking at the gains or the winners of this particular supplementary budget, it speaks and it looks, it portrays a very good picture, Honorable Speaker, of this government that is paying attention to issues that are very primary and that are really important to this country. Honorable Speaker, when you look at education, it has been able to get a lot of money in terms of the recruitment of the 20,000 JSS teachers, Honorable Speaker, as opposed to the narrative that we were all setting into, Honorable Speaker, that since we did not have the finance bill go forward, therefore we cannot be able to generate money to run this government, then this will be the first casualties. Honorable Speaker, I am happy that we have a responsible government, a government that sits down and weighs what is more important and what is urgent, Honorable Speaker, and that is why we have the 46,000 JSS teachers confirmed and the 20,000 that are going to be hired as interns, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the young men and women of this country will not be going without money under the HELB. They will be able to access their money properly, Honorable Speaker. We also have the issue of the school feeding program. Honorable Speaker, I have my own reservations in regards to how the feeding program, Honorable Speaker, is actually implemented and the beneficiaries. But that notwithstanding, Honorable Speaker, I would be very selfish to actually say no to it when someone is going to benefit. So, Honorable Speaker, while we work on the structures to ensure that implementation is not only fair but also targeted, Honorable Speaker, I support and I am really happy that it was part of the persons gaining. Honorable Speaker, in health, we are going to have the universal health care. It has been a great beneficiary. We are going to have them get 8 billion. Honorable Speaker, the primary health care, the emergency and chronic diseases is also getting an allocation, Honorable Speaker. Importantly, Honorable Speaker, if you look at livestock and cooperatives, where the milk farmers, the dairy farmers are falling into, Honorable Speaker, as much as the budget cannot be able to accord the 2 billion that we really wanted for us to be able to bring up the prices of milk for our farmers, I am happy that at least we have 1.5 billion, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to take care of our milk farmers and be able to save them from the treatment that they are getting currently, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I cannot overemphasize, Honorable Speaker, the cherry fund that is being given to coffee farmers. Nandi County, Honorable Speaker, as you have noted, is the greatest and the newest entrant to coffee farming, and we hope to be able to benefit, Honorable Speaker, from this, including the sugar reforms, Honorable Speaker. I am one happy representative to see that this budget or this supplementary budget has maintained or retained the 1 billion that is supposed to be, that is meant for sugar reforms, Honorable Speaker, and of course not to mention the fertilizer subsidy. I am one happy person, I am one happy farmer, and one happy representative, Honorable Speaker, because our people will continue to produce their farm produce, Honorable Speaker, and feed this country. Honorable Speaker, I am especially happy because of the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, Honorable Speaker, like it has been put across by several members in this House, is that the CDF and the NGAF are very important funds that touch the people on the ground. I am happy, Honorable Speaker, that this government has seen the importance of those two funds, and therefore, if a budget cut has been inflicted on any of them, it is minimal, Honorable Speaker. But for NGAF, we want to appreciate that actually we are receiving the money that's supposed to help us do affirmative action in our counties. Honorable Speaker, looking at these two sides, Honorable Speaker, allow me to say that this is a sincere budget rationalization, a sincere one, Honorable Speaker, considering what was taken away and what actually gained from those that had something taken away from them. Honorable Speaker, that notwithstanding, I must mention, Honorable Speaker, that we have issues that we must be able to deal with, Honorable Speaker. We must deal with wastage, Honorable Speaker, and we must be able to deliberately shed the fat of public resource wastage, Honorable Speaker. This one must be done for us to be able to ensure that the services that we want to get to our people actually get to them and on time, for that matter, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is also an elephant in the room that is called disbursement. Honorable Speaker, I have been in a legislative house. This is my 7th year, Honorable Speaker. And one single thing I have not been able to crack is something called disbursement. Honorable Speaker, it beats me that we can do a budget, allocate a certain amount of money, confirm using a finance bill, whether a current one or a previous one, that we can be able to get this money and we can be able to fund this budget. And at the end of the financial year, Madam Speaker, we actually get non-disbursements. We don't get that money given to the line ministry that was intended for, Honorable Speaker. It beats me, Honorable Speaker, and I think this is one thing as a parliament we must speak to, so that we ensure that at the end of every financial year, every single coin that was allocated to whatever purpose actually serves the purpose at that point in time, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we also have the elephant that is called non-expenditure, Honorable Speaker, or underutilization, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is sheer incompetence for you to be given money, a specific amount of money, and at the end of the financial year, Honorable Speaker, amidst all the needs that we have in this country, all the issues that need to be sorted, you return the money at the end of financial year, courtesy of lack of utilization or underutilization. That is something, Honorable Speaker, as a parliament, if we intend to ensure that the people of Kenya get services, we must deal with it, and this is not only the time, but also the opportunity to be able to deal with it, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to sort out these issues and get services to our people, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, you know, I remember in the year 2022, when the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, came into office, he made a very unpopular decision. A decision to put to an end subsidies, Honorable Speaker. And when that happened, Honorable Speaker, it was very unpopular, but we have a very good result from it, Honorable Speaker, that it was able to stabilize our economic situation in this country, and we were able to see...
Order, Member for Nandi. Honorable Catherine, what's out of order?
I just wanted my colleague and a very good friend of mine, Honorable Cynthia Muge, to notice that when school feeding program for nomadic places...
What is out of order, Honorable Catherine?
She said that it's not working, but it is working. I want to prove to her.
Honorable Catherine, that is point of information.
And
if I had Honorable Member for Nandi, she said she may not agree with how it is done, but she supports. And she did not say it's not working. So that is not a point of order. Is there anything out of order, Honorable Catherine?
I want just to mention something so that she can be happy, a little happy, even if she's not agreeing.
She looks pretty happy to me.
She was not agreeing. I want her to agree. Actually, NACONEC is a council that is working better before...
Honorable Catherine, that is a point of information. It's
Yes.
a point of debate. You'll be free to put it in your debate. Honorable Member for Nandi, kindly conclude.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. And of course, you know, issues of food is in the heart of every woman and mother, so that I understand, Honorable Speaker. And just lastly, Honorable Speaker, I must say that the finance bill has brought us here. And we have all realized that it cuts to the front and to the back. that those who are there and those who are not there are suffering the same consequences, Honorable Speaker. But it is also good that we are here so that we can be able to live within our means and ensure that whatever we have, we make it count while it lasts, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this particular motion.
Honorable Joseph Oyula, member for Butula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this important motion. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by congratulating the Budget Committee for work well done. The Budget Committee went through a lot of small areas to ensure that the budget is almost properly brought out. However, Madam Speaker, my concern is mainly on the huge reduction on the capital expenditure against the reduction on the recurrent expenditure. Madam Speaker, development expenditure is the one that should have been given less reduction because it spurs development in the country. It's the area that the youths can get employment. It's the area that the production of a country can be assessed and be determined. Madam Speaker, I would suggest that as the Budget Committee continues with their work, they should put more effort in reducing recurrent expenditure and enhancing the capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is very important for development of the country. Other than that, Madam Speaker, I'm happy that a lot of areas have been properly taken care of. Like in agriculture, we have those coolers which are very useful in some of our areas. The other issue, Madam Speaker, is the consideration for the JSS teachers. There have been a problem in the constituencies, but I think with this provision that has been put in the budget, many of them will be accommodated in the system. Madam Speaker, TVETs, construction of hostels has also been considered. And that is very important because most TVETs do not have hostels. And therefore, you find the students moving around looking for accommodation. I'm sure if this is done and done well, our students will have proper accommodation and will concentrate on their studies. Madam Speaker, I also want to mention the increase in the energy for purchase of transformers. Some of our areas, particularly the area I come from, we do not have adequate power in the county. So these transformers will help those dark areas that we still see in our areas. Madam Speaker, this is a very important budget, even though it came at a bad time because of the rejection of the finance bill, but still we need to take care that the reduction in some of these areas do not contribute to pending bills, because if we increase pending bills, we'll be increasing our borrowing, and that will affect our deficit. So these reductions should be looked at again so that we have adequate funding in some of the projects that were ongoing so that we don't create pending bills which are going to increase our deficit. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I wish to support this supplementary budget. Thank you.
Honorable Jackson Kosgei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I support this motion on the consideration of the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-2025, and I appreciate the chair and the committee for bringing in a mitigative supplementary budget that is going to cushion our expenditure and as we collect the revenues in this country to run the government. I wish to bring to the attention of the House three things. Number one, especially budget cuts is supposed to guide budgeting towards minimizing on non-essential areas and concentrate on very essential areas during this time of austerity measures. And I wish to join other speakers that even when we exercise that discretion of budget cuts, we should be sensitive to important areas that may not be loud, yet it is equally important. Madam Speaker, we have ministries that over time in various regimes in the past have never been considered essential. And that is ministries touching on young people. We have had an experience with our younger people expressing themselves, and it is time that when we consider our budget, we should increase in those areas. The Ministry of Sports, for example, and other ministry is the ministry that is got to do with the preservation of our identity as a nation, and that is dealing with culture. I happen to be a member of the departmental committee, and we witnessed how much budget cuts was done on these ministries. And I think these are ministries that touches on essential areas in the management of our country. And therefore, I would wish to request that the budget committee reconsider some of the areas where the budget cuts has affected those activities that would have accommodated the needs amongst our young people. Number two, Madam Speaker, is a consideration of safety features in risk management in our own premises as Parliament. I wish to again draw the attention of the Budget Committee that whether or not it is available in the PSC, I am one of those who consumes facilities that requires persons with disability to access important exit or entrances into this particular building. And there are two areas in this building. When we have students coming up here into the speaker's gallery, Madam Speaker, the area of entrance and exit is complicated. We would like to have attention by the Budget Committee to add in this supplementary budget, because risk is an issue that can call for attention at any time. The other one is exit route, as discussed yesterday or the day before yesterday, which affected us, who are more dependent on assistive devices. It was totally impossible. Even if my brothers and sisters would have loved to carry us, you wouldn't have saved us and you would not have saved yourself. So very important is that as a matter of urgency, the Budget Committee should include that as a matter of urgency, that in the ongoing repairs include also the services, whether putting up a lift or building a ramp. Finally, Madam Speaker, I wish to appeal to our children, the Gen Zs. You realize I was in they call it the eye of the storm, or I wish to appeal to them as a father, as a grandparent, and as a leader in this country, that their voices have been heard. Their voices have been heard. And let them listen to us from Parliament. We have listened to them. The ongoing strikes may no longer serve the purpose of passing the message. It will encourage hooliganism, it can encourage deaths, and it can encourage retardation in development and progress of our country. History, Madam Speaker, is awash with witnesses on alternatives that people have changed their governments. Some with good intention have brought down governments to zero, to start again, and by the time they are building their countries, it is about 50 years later, and those who brought down the system will not be there to enjoy what it comes. It is important to appreciate that today in this country, we have gone through a great transformation from post-independent leadership to where we are. We have a very responsive system. We have a constitution that opens room. There was a time, Madam Speaker, that you would not even demonstrate in this country and go home safe. You can do it in Kenya. You can even abuse and insult any leader at your own will. You talk of things that cannot be accepted in a normal society. You can see how much freedom we have. And this is a product of those who came before us and was sensitive in the transformation of government management. I wish to use this opportunity as a person who is consumer of disability assets, that we cannot encourage the country to open up to civil conflict, violence, which will maim, make others cripple, and we are doing all over again the same thing that others have done. Gen Zs, I wish to speak to you. You have the numbers. I am appealing to you. Prepare for the subsequent elections that are coming. Go and register so that during that time, translate your intention into votes that can change the direction of this country to the direction you want. That is the strength we have in this country. I, once again, as I end, Madam Speaker, I am appealing to them that they are our children. And we meant them. We meant well for them. We are us who educated them. We took them to school. We gave them the best. That is why they are able to argue. Can you listen to us for once? Stop the demonstration. With that, I support the motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Member for Kiamba, Honorable John Kawanjiku.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important debate that support the supplementary estimates for this financial year because of unprecedented occasions that happened within our nation whereby we were not able to see through the enactment of the finance bill, Madam Speaker. But it is good to note and also to let the Kenyans know wherever they are that whatever has been happening within our nation is because of supporting and trying to make sure that we support our budget from our own revenue and also trying to gain our own sovereignty. We don't have to depend mostly on debt, mostly on grants, by making sure that we rise to the occasion of supporting our nation in terms of development, in terms of the recurrent expenditure. And we had looked into all those issues because I sit in the budget committee, Madam Speaker, by making sure that we have also been able to prepare the budget. And at the same time, on the other hand, we have prepared means and ways to raise the revenue to support the budget, Madam Speaker. On that note, tough times call for tough measures, Madam Speaker, and we had to look into it and cut quite a number of development budget so that we can be able to sustain ourselves as a country and make sure that what we can live without, we can be able to remove it from the budget, and what we can't live without, we are able to fund it and support, especially on areas that are supporting our people from the bottom of the pyramid, Madam Speaker. Majority of these issues, we had the issue of JSS, whereby we had looked into it because it supports the education sector of our country, whereby majority of our people can only be able to eliminate and to remove, poverty within our homes is only through educating our family members and fellow Kenyans, so that at least they can be able to gain their confidence and gain, certificates to take them to the next level. We were able to support the JSS education teachers by making sure that we have included, no matter how difficult it is to support them, we decided we have to cut the budget on other areas and make sure that we have money to employ the 46,000 JSS teachers so that we can support our CBC our system of education to make sure that we retain as many students in our school as much as we can. We were able also to allocate money for the coffee cherry fund, whereby we had allocated 4 billion, but because of the difficulties of raising the revenue, we deducted 1 billion from the cherry fund, but we remained with about 3 billion shillings to help our coffee farmers to maintain and to support them to continue doing the farming for the coffee. It normally have a lot of impact to our economy, Madam Speaker. Part of it is helping us generate, foreign exchange. The moment we exchange our coffee from other countries, we are able to retain and to gain foreign exchange and make sure that our shillings is stronger against the dollar, and we are able to support what we can import and what we can export, and especially on the level of exporting, of supporting our export, Madam Speaker. On the same note, we are able to retain money for coolers, milk coolers, Madam Speaker, 2 billion shillings. This will also help our farmers who are able to produce milk so that we can, contain and maintain that milk in a better form and support the milk, the farmers with milk in cooler, Madam Speaker. On that also note, we are able also to maintain. We had put funds for the farmers, for the new KICC, so that every farmer can be able to have what we call minimum guarantee returns and maintain a 50 shillings sale per litre, so that farmer, when you prepare to farm, when you have your cow, depending on the number of liters that you are able to milk every day, Madam Speaker, we are able to make sure that that farmer will be able to manage and to plan his income, because he's guaranteed that this is the amount of money that he's going to be earning, Madam Speaker. And in that way, we are able to support our local farmers to make sure that we support them with the resources. We had seen a very serious gap between the farmer and the broker and the person who is selling the milk at the supermarket, Madam Speaker. 1 liter, the KICC or the other people who are buying this milk, they buy at a very low price, around 30 shillings, Madam Speaker. But when they are selling it, this 1 liter of milk into the supermarket, they are selling it at 100 and or 200, 100 and 120 shillings per liter, Madam Speaker. And with that, we realize that the farmer is not benefiting from the farming and from the work and from a lot of input he has put to make sure that he's able to produce that 1 liter of milk, Madam Speaker. So therefore, we decided we must put a minimum guarantee returns to secure the farmer and to make sure that he also able to benefit from the amount of money that the new KICC and the KCC are selling to the farmers, to the market, Madam Speaker. On the same note, we have done the school feeding program, whereby it is also very essential, even if there was a lot of politics going on between where the school feeding program is stationed. But we also thought as a committee, we cannot transfer that service to disaster management. We took it back to the education sector because they have an overview, they have a better program, they have a better things, they have a better, they're able to know how to make sure that they distribute these foods to the people who need them. They have that infrastructure, Madam Speaker. But the moment we transfer this food feeding program to other departments that has no crew, that has no infrastructure in terms of making sure that the food gets to the people at the arid areas, Madam Speaker, we thought it was prudent. We take the money back to Minister of Education. Then the Minister of Education can decide what to do with that, how to distribute and to make sure that our students are able to get food, a lunch in their school, Madam Speaker. On this note, Madam Speaker, we must all agree that no matter whatever is happening within our country, we must come back to our senses and support this economy, Madam Speaker. We don't have any other Kenya. We only have one Kenya, Madam Speaker. Whatever is happening outside here, it is very demoralizing. But we need to tell our fellow Kenyans that whatever we are going to do going forward is to make sure that we manage our resources, prudently. When it comes to the issue of wastage, that the government must be able to deal with wastage conclusively. And I support the president on areas that he decided to do away with. We didn't need to have the office of the first lady, the office of the second lady. Those are the things that we can be able to deduct and to reduce in terms of the costing and support the local manufacturers. And this finance bill, Madam Speaker, because there was a lot of misinformation that was going on, the issue of making sure we support the local manufacturer must be key in this government. The issue of making sure that we protect whatever we can be able to do without importing. We must make sure we put the government money there, inject government resources there, help it to grow in terms of those industries and those infrastructures. We make sure that the government is able to support the local manufacturers so that we can protect and cushion our Kenya shillings against the dollar, and we can only be able to import the things that for sure we cannot be able to live with, and there are things that we are not producing as a country, Madam Speaker. Supporting local manufacturer is key. Making sure we deal with corruption precisely, and I have heard the president this afternoon saying that we're going to propose some amendments to the Public Procurement Act, Public Finance Management Act, and all those things, so that at least we can make sure that now we look into nitty-gritties of how the public resources are utilized. The issue of making sure, we even deducted 30 billion shillings that was to go to the counties. And we have said it today, that the Senate must be able to do its oversight role as far as the county funds are concerned. There is a lot of corruption and misuse and wastage that is happening within the counties. But they forget these are money that comes from the public, Madam Speaker. We must make sure that we bring the governors to book. We make sure that, the issue of corruption has been dealt with. Let people within 1 or 2, 3 or 4 months, the key issue of corruption, the matter to be taken to court, and then we can be able to see some actions happening of those people who are misusing public resources, Madam Speaker. We are living at tough times, but we must make sure we protect the few resources that we have, and that's what Kenyans are talking about. That is what Kenyans are saying. The little resources you have, make prudent use of it, and make sure that you deal with corruption, the root cause of corruption, as far as this government is concerned. And therefore, I rise to support the supplementary estimate too, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to the, I don't want to say acting, but the one occupying the seat that belongs to the leader of minority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I just want to acknowledge that you have said the one occupying. Gen Zs have already told us to occupy. If they can occupy parliament, why can I not occupy the position of minority leader? And Madam Speaker, this is totally in order, because if you see what the men do in this house, when they have got outside there, they have negotiated with the president, and you see the men are the ones who are taking the CS positions. And I think we can sit here and watch them, and they come here and they are talking about also taking this position. In my mother tongue, we say teloika or kumingato. Nisha chukua hii imeenda. So let them look for another one. And if they want to negotiate with me, we negotiate when I am seated. And I told you in this house, bad girls, good girls never get the corner office. I'm a bad girl. I've sat here, so I'm looking for the corner office. If Wandayi has gone that corner office, I'm taking. The very least I can do, if you agree, is to take one very close, but nothing any less than that. But having said that, Madam Speaker, I just want to say I want to thank the Gen Z for the revolution. I know many of us have diverse views about it, but I want to say that as a person who has been in this struggle for many years, there are very interesting things that happened out of it, including bringing us in a unique situation where we are actually doing a supplementary before we have actually implemented the budget. I don't think this has ever happened in the country. But I want to encourage us as members of parliament that sometimes when we have gone through the challenging parts and we feel like we're in a secure place, we forget where we have come from. Let us not forget that for the first time, Gen Zs across, there were Gen Zs who are our children, who are our grandchildren. And Madam Speaker, I raised the alarm on this floor before the 25th. And Madam Speaker, it came to pass. Because we don't listen sometimes. When we are leaders, sometimes we think we have all the answers. We don't. Because we have a generation that are experiencing life differently, and sometimes they're also experiencing the way we did, it's just that we've forgotten. We need to listen to them. Yesterday, when I was meeting my cousin, who was visiting me from Canada, and the daughter has whatever, she has pierced her nose. So she has a ring on her nose. And I wanted to complain and say, why do you have a ring on your nose? But before I could raise my voice, I was reminded that once upon a time I had one. I'd even forgotten that I had a ring on my nose. I was asking the person, I did? Yeah, you did. And Madam Speaker, when I saw all the scenes of the Gen Zs for the first time, I was so thrilled to just sit back and see myself from another perspective. When I was that age, I was on the street, lying on the streets with a police gun hovering over me. Why? Because at that age, even though I do appreciate all the things that they are saying, but at that age you also think that you can change the world and you must change it now. And for us who are older, we must listen to the idealism of the youth because we need it as a country. And we infuse it with our realism. And that is the only way we can take the country forward. And that is why I am happy that they forced us to bring this supplementary that is speaking to some of the things that we've been saying before. And I've been listening very carefully to some of the things these Gen Zs are saying. And they say very simple things. Like even today, we had opportunity, some of us who are members of parliament, women members, and we were in a function with some of the Gen Zs. And I carried my grandchild along, and she, very young, I didn't think she even can speak before people. And she challenged us, and she was saying, you people are telling us that we are rich children with mobile phones, and we don't understand, etc., etc. And she said, so you wanted the poor children to be the ones going there demonstrating about their poverty. I mean, they say in very simple terms, but very poignant. So do we want the poor children to be the one demonstrating about their poverty? If you can unpackage what that means, even if they are privileged. And it takes me back to this budget. That whenever we budget, we don't do a realistic budget. And so this budget, for the first time, is attempting to do a little bit of a realistic budget. The only challenge that I am facing with this budget is because we know that we're actually implementing austerity measures. But unfortunately, whenever we budget, we don't take certain principles into account. The principle of gender equity, the principle of equity, the principle of marginalization and inclusion, you know, the converse inclusion. But Madam Speaker, it's not just that we don't take it during budgeting. We also don't take that into account during budget cuts. So who do we look for? The same way that the men are dishing out these seats to themselves. It's the same way when the budget comes, we start slashing things that have to do with women, that have to do with the children, that have to do with the youth. And I've actually pointed it out to my budget committee. And I'm glad that our committee has listened and has returned some. But we want to encourage you men, please, listen to us. This country is not about you alone. There are other people in this country. There are women in this country. And so whether you are budgeting, whether you are doing cuts, can you look at how it impacts on women, on children, on the youth, on persons with disabilities? And Madam Speaker, it is even embarrassing. And I'm sure, I'm glad we shared it, Bishop who spoke before me, that I was in a moral dilemma as we were moving out of here. And I went to get my bag in the lounge. And Bishop, together with Honorable Museo, told me, Honorable Millie, you are leaving us here. And I looked around me, I'm like, I very quickly thought, because the groups were already coming, there were very many. And I looked around me, I'm like, okay, so where do I take them? Everybody was walking up the stairs. They are in wheelchairs. Where do you take them? So even in our own budgeting, when we are building this parliament, when we are looking at exits, where do the persons with disability go? And our budgeting never takes that into account. And that is why I hope we are not pushed into a corner only in 2024, and then in 2025, we go back to our bad manners. Let every budgeting we do look like it's a budget of crisis, because then we think of Kenyans. Because sometimes, I don't know what leadership does to us. I'm writing my book, which are called Privileged. And it's misleading because my privilege is because God enabled me to go through some challenges in life, so that I'm privileged that when I'm in a position like this, I understand. My father was a member of the regional assembly. And so I was actually a child of the privileged. And whenever we had events like Madaraka Day or public holidays, I used to be taken in front when my father was alive. And my father died in November. And in December, when I went in front, I was chased and told to go and stand in the sun. And I was like, hey, you guys don't understand. I'm the daughter of Harrison Odhiambo. They told kwenda kabisa, and I was beaten and taken back. And that has taught me that even when I'm a leader, I don't need to feel good and flaws and show off to people. What for? These things are flimsy and they are here for a moment. And the lessons that have just happened here are things to teach us that these things are for a moment. Chair, I know because of my time is up, I'll just say, let's deal with the issue of corruption and let's put money for victims who have died during these demonstrations. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Soy, Honorable David Kiplagat.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support, though reluctantly, the budget, the supplementary budget that has been laid, tabled, and being discussed in this House. I'm saying reluctantly so because as the representative of the people of Soy, initially when we were doing the budget, we had a lot of expectations. Part of the expectations is that within our area of jurisdiction, the main problem that we seem to be having is the last mile connectivity, which is still between 35 to 30% thereabout. And people are always on our necks. I'm talking on behalf of all the Uasin Gishu members of parliament, because they expect us that the issue of last mile connectivity should be addressed. And we were very happy when at least we were looking at light at the end of the tunnel. The allocation of 14.5 billion that had been allocated for every constituency. In fact, I was talking to Jelash the other day and telling him maybe because Langata is connected to 100%, we might talk behind the 10 so that he can be able to assist me the 50 million. I took mine to 100 million. But due to what happened, which we all regret, the finance bill was withdrawn, and the revenue raising measures by government was a bit curtailed, and that one has affected the last mile connectivity. I'm calling upon the Budget and Appropriation Committee and the Energy Committee to still relook at the issue of last mile connectivity so that we can sacrifice other projects, we can sacrifice on the recurrent expenditure, and we try as much as possible to raise the 14.5 billion, which it was actually something we could take home and we could be able to discuss. But for now, I know my problem of connectivity within Soy constituency will still stand, and I am hoping that given there will be another supplementary 2 before the end of this financial year, that is something it should be considered. I had even dared that the 10 million, which have been, the 10 billion, which I have been told it has also been affected, for the CDF could be transferred to last mile connectivity. For my case, I could be a very happy man. That's why I'm saying that I support, since the government has no otherwise because of what happened, but reluctantly so. Another thing that is that we need to address, I know the young generation, the Gen Zs, are raising a lot of issues on wastage, a lot of issues on accountability, a lot of issues on transparency, which is very important. But because we are the fathers of our young people, that is the Generation Z, if you hear them out, the complaint is that it seems they don't have the information as to why we are doing this. Because it is very important that we sit down and we have a conversation with the young people so that they can understand, since independence, we have been accumulating a debt, and that debt now stands to over 11 trillion that we have to pay, and it forms as a first charge. And I was telling them that we are paying around 1.1 trillion per year. And if you have counties, which I believe also should be another discussion, and I'll bring a motion to this House to even discuss the legitimacy of Council of Governors, because I know they are suing the National Assembly left, right, and center, including wanting to disband CDF, which is achieving a lot of things on the ground. So we actually need to discuss, because as currently constituted, the Council of Governors has no legal bearing, is not within our laws, and given that it has no legal framework, then that organization should be disbanded so that they don't continue disturbing us within the corridors of our courts. Having said that, I think it is important that the Budget and Appropriation Committee and also the Treasury, and I'm very happy my chairman for PAC will be who is now the nominee for the CS Treasury. The next budget he will bring to this House, we shall focus more on development. I come from an agricultural constituency, and initially in the budget estimates, we had allocated AFC, that is the credit facilities to our farmers, around 1 billion. And because we are tightening the belt, that one now is gone. We had also allocated subsidy fertilizer. We had allocated 10 billion, although the requirement is around 15 billion. But because of that, now we have about 7.5 billion because of the other necessity of milk coolers, which is very important. So we are living in a physical space that is so small that when you try to fit the requirement of this country, it becomes very complicated. But now that we have Honorable Kinamili Odhiambo having joined the government, I believe we should come back with a finance bill which we can be able to adopt so that at the end of the day, we support the government in having a balanced budget within the next 3 years, and we support, we raise enough revenue where we can be able to run our country. Otherwise, because of the physical space that is there, we remain with no any other option but to reluctantly support the supplementary budget. And I believe, and I haven't heard the chairman for budget on the issue of DORA, on the issue of KARA. I believe if we are tightening our belt, if we are reducing on CDF, if we are reducing on last mile connectivity, if we are reducing on subsidized fertilizer, if we are reducing, in fact, I was looking at the social media, there is a road that was awarded to Chinese in my area for the last, since 2018. It has not been completed, and now the people are very agitated, and because of this physical space, we might not have enough money to construct that road so that we can finish ongoing projects. So I believe in the next supplementary budget, let us focus to finish ongoing projects. Let us focus on those development projects that will bring impact to our people. And also, because we are reducing on every item, also the county allocation, I believe, should be reduced. And I propose that we need to amend the DORA, we need to amend the KARA so that we can reduce it by a further 25 billion. With those few remarks, I support the supplementary budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Mombasa, Honorable Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na nimengojea kwa muda lakini umefika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza niweze kutoa rambirambi zangu kwa familia ya wale waliopoteza wapendwa wao wakati wa maandamano, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, Kenya ni yetu sisi sote, na bila amani Kenya hakuwezi kuwa na maendeleo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na licha ya kuwa watoto wetu walizungumza mambo mengi na yamesikizwa, mimi nawaomba watoto wetu waweze kutulia. Kama ninavyoona katika hii bajeti, mambo yao mengi yameangaliwa na mambo ambayo yalikuwa yanawasumbua mengi yametolewa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nachukua fursa hii kuweza kumpongeza ndugu yangu kipenzi, ndugu yangu tunayemwenzi Simba wa Pwani, ndugu yangu Hassan Alijo, kuwezwa kuweka katika ule msururu ambao utakuja kupigwa msasa hapa bungeni katika kiti cha waziri wa uchumi samawati na madini, Mheshimiwa Spika. Niweze kumpongeza pia kinara wangu wa chama kuweza kumkumbatia ndugu yetu na kuweza kumweka katika wale ambao wameteuliwa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwetu Mombasa tunasema ni furaha kubwa, na tunajua ni mchapakazi. Na yale ambayo aliweza kufanya akiwa mbunge wa Kisauni, akiwa gavana wa Mombasa, na akiwa naibu wa waziri, ataweza kuboresha uchumi samawati na madini katika Kenya, na aweze kuinua uchumi wa Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na muombea Mungu mahali popote alipo, Mwenyezi Mungu amtangulie mbele, na naomba wabunge wenzangu akija hapa bungeni tuweze kumpa support, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nirudi kwenye bajeti hii ambayo imekadiriwa. Niweze kushukuru sana kamati ya bajeti ambayo imeleta haya makadirio, ambayo kwa wakati ule tuliweza kutoa ile finance bill, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo ilikuwa na mambo mengi mazito, Mheshimiwa Spika. Niweze kuwapongeza kwa upande wa elimu, Mheshimiwa Spika, wameweza kuongeza milioni 247 katika shule ya msingi. Hii itaweza kuwezesha watoto wasome, wakae darasani, manake tulikuwa tunaona hata watoto ile desk ya kuweza kukalia, Mheshimiwa Spika, watoto walikuwa wanakosa, wanaenda kwa wazazi ili wazazi waweze kutengeza madawati kuleta darasani, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini katika hii bajeti naona wameongezewa, na niweze kupongeza kuipongeza kamati ya bajeti kwa kazi nzuri ambayo wamefanya. Wameongeza pia katika shule ya sekondari, Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeona milioni 205 wameweza kuongezewa katika yale makadirio yalikuwa ya mwanzo, Mheshimiwa Spika, na sisi tunasema elimu ndio uti wa mgongo wa maendeleo ya taifa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo watoto wetu wengi watabaki darasani. Mheshimiwa Spika, niweze pia kupongeza kamati hii kwa sababu katika zile TVET schools na vocational training schools pia wamewekea bajeti vijana. Kwa hiyo mimi nawaomba vijana kule nje ambao walikuwa hawana ujuzi, bajeti imewekwa kwenu, mara hii sauti zenu zimesikika na mmewekewa bajeti nzuri sana ambayo inaweza kuwasaidia, na mjitokeze muingie katika TVET na vocational trainings ili muweze kupata taaluma mbalimbali ambayo itawawezesha nyinyi kuja kupata ajira. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeona pia katika blue economy ama uchumi samawati, kama mkazi wa Mombasa ambaye natoka sehemu ambayo ina bahari, Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeongezewa milioni 400 kwa wale katika ile factory ya Liwatoni, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo ni wavuvi wa samaki, Mheshimiwa Spika, ili waweze kuijenga, kuimaliza kwa sababu ilikuwa imekwama. Mimi nataka kupongeza kamati ya bajeti kuweza kutukumbuka kama watu ambao wanatoka sehemu ambazo zina bahari ama uchumi samawati, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nimeangalia pia katika REREC, wale ambao mambo ya stima kuingia katika mashinani kule. Tukiangalia sehemu pengine, kwa mfano, kuna sehemu ambazo ni sehemu za ukame, ni sehemu ambazo hazijafikiwa na maendeleo, Mheshimiwa Spika, kama kule ndani Garissa, Ganze, kule ndani. Mheshimiwa Spika, ikiwa hawa wameongezewa pesa za kuweza kufikisha huduma ya moto mpaka mashinani, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nachukua fursa hii kupongeza sana. Ni kitu ambacho kitafanya maendeleo yafike mashinani, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeangalia pia katika bajeti ya ofisi ya naibu wa rais imepunguzwa, japokuwa sikuridhia ilivyopunguzwa, ni kidogo, imepunguzwa milioni 100 peke yake, Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati ambapo tuliona katika bajeti iliyopita kuwa milioni 600 iliwekwa katika kuweza kurekebisha tu nyumba, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo ilijengwa na takriban milioni 400. Kwa hiyo ningeweza kuomba hawa kamati ya bajeti waweze pia kuangalia, wakati huu hatutaki kuangalia marekebisho ya manyumba kwa sababu Wakenya wanahangaika sana, Mheshimiwa Spika, na Wakenya wanataka kuangalia vitu vinavyopewa kipaumbele, ni vitu ambavyo vitaboresha uchumi, ni vitu ambavyo vinaweza kushika production industry, ile uchumi uweze kuinuka na ushuru uweze kupungua chini, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo katika hiyo pia naomba wazidi kupunguza, na naona pia katika agriculture, licha ya kuwa agriculture wameongezewa ili kuweza kuleta chakula na kila kitu, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini pia milioni 100 imetolewa katika agriculture ambayo ilikuwa ni ya Nairobi River. Tunajua huo mto huo unapeleka maji, inaenda maji sehemu kubwa sana ambayo inafanywa mpaka irrigation na mambo mengi na kusafisha. Naona hii imetolewa kule, imewekwa katika ofisi ya naibu wa rais, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi ningependa kuomba kamati husika waweze kuiregesha kule ili iweze kusaidia pale, ilikuwa na usaidizi mkubwa sana, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeangalia pia wamefidia katika ile kitengo cha ardhi, wameweza kuongeza milioni 750, na mimi niweze kufurahi kwa sababu kuna wakazi wa Mombasa ambao walipoteza mashamba yao, wako katika wale ambao watakaoweza kufidiwa na wale wa kutoka Taita Taveta ambao ni pwani, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo naona pesa zimeingia sehemu husika, na ndio maana mimi nataka kuambia hawa watoto wetu wa Gen Z wamefanya kazi nzuri sana, wameamsha ili bunge, wameamsha bongo za waheshimiwa, wameamsha mabongo sasa yanafanya kazi, yanaweka pesa sehemu ambazo zinakusudiwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi nataka kuwapongeza sana tena sana. Ule mwamko ulikuwa mzuri, isipokuwa wabaya waliingia ndani, lakini mpaka sasa kama wabunge tumepata funzo na bunge hili naona limeamka na limeimarika, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeona pia walimu wetu ambao ni wa shule wa JSS, hizi shule ambazo za juzi ambazo walikuwa hawana mishahara, Mheshimiwa Spika, wameweza pia kuwekewa bajeti yao na imeongezwa. Kwa hiyo mimi nataka nipongeze kwa sababu hawa walimu wengi walikuwa wamejitolelea kufunza tu Mheshimiwa Spika, walikuwa hawana mshahara Mheshimiwa Spika, na wengi walikuwa wakitufuata sisi kama wabunge wakilia wakisema, mama Zamzam, tukimbilieni kule bungeni, muhakikishe kuwa na sisi pia tunapata mshahara, tunapata pesa ambazo zinaweza kutusaidia kujimudu kiafya na tukiweza kuangalia watoto wetu wakisoma Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo hili la kuwapa hawa walimu wa junior secondary school mshahara Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nafurahi sana tena sana, manake limetoa mzigo mkubwa katika mgongo wa wananchi Mheshimiwa Spika. Ilikuwa wazazi wakati mwingine wanachanga ili kuweza kuangalia wale walimu wa JCC, lakini sasa wamepata mgao wao na mambo yataenda shwari Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninaangalia katika hospitali kuu ya Kenyatta Mheshimiwa Spika, matibabu katika sekta ya kansa Mheshimiwa Spika yamepunguzwa mgao wao Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka niwaambie wanakamati hapa msingepagusa kabisa, kwa sababu wananchi wengi wanahangaika na kansa haichagui tajiri wala maskini Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi napenda kuambia ule mgao ambao ulikuwa unaenda kwa hawa kule hospitali ya Kenyatta Hospital kwa matibabu ya kansa waweze kuregesha, kwa sababu ni mgao muhimu sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Hakuna kitu kizuri kama afya. Mengi wamefanya vizuri, na hii supplementary budget Mheshimiwa Spika mimi naisupport sana tena sana, lakini naomba mahali kwa matibabu na mahali ambapo pengine kama ofisi ya naibu wa rais Mheshimiwa Spika malimbikizo yalikuwa ni mengi sana, wazidi kupunguza pale Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu pesa nyingi pale zilikuwa hazieleweki zaenda kufanya kazi gani. Kwa hiyo wamepunguza 100, mimi nawaomba wazidi kupunguza zaidi, lakini yote 9-10 Mheshimiwa Spika mimi nawapongeza na naomba Kenya tuwe na amani, tuache vita. Hakuna linalowezekana kufanyika kama Kenya iko kama vile Sudani ama mataifa ambayo yanapigana. Tunataka amani katika taifa letu ili tuweze kurekebisha tukiwa katika jumba hili na turekebishe tukiwa na amani. Asante.
The Honorable Dr. James Ombura Nyikal, the MP for Seme.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this debate. Mr. Speaker, this supplementary budget, we describe it as unique, we describe it as unprecedented, but what actually it is just a revision of the 2024-25 budget because the finance bill didn't go through. And Mr. Speaker, matters have even been made worse by the loss of revenue due to the ongoing unrest, which we hope may be addressed soon. The budget itself is actually realistic in the circumstances. It looks at areas of need that are critical and address those. It looked at areas where we can wait, like areas of construction, and monies have been removed from those. Mr. Speaker, the real question is, how did we get into a situation where our own children went to the street, agreed to be killed, and many of them have died, and all of us support them. All of us start by saying the Gen Zs are right, the Gen Zs are right, the Gen Zs have shown the way, the Gen Zs. How did we get to that situation? Mr. Speaker, all this is a culmination of the errors of omission, the errors of commission that we have committed in the past, in areas of governance, in areas of our politics, in areas of service delivery. Look at education. Up to now, the university students who are reporting in September do not know what their fees are. Look at health. The shift that we are going on, all those laws have actually been declared unconstitutional or improperly passed by the courts. And therefore, all the services that were dependent of NHIF have actually suspended. The police insurance, the civil servants insurance, all these are issues that didn't come suddenly. The issues of corruption, the issues of excessive show of opulence, the issues of biased recruitment, all these are actually what have culminated in this. Mr. Speaker, some of it is due to expectations that we did not meet. And some of these expectations, we actually raised them ourselves. We raised expectations that we have not been able to meet. Mr. Speaker, in my view, as we discuss this, what we need to realize is from now on, we have to change our way of doing things. Let the interests of the people be our guiding principle. Mr. Speaker, this finance bill that actually could not go through, we knew from the beginning the people did not want it. Public participation everywhere indicated withdraw that bill. All people that actually looked at this, professional organizations, church organizations, we just didn't listen. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a situation where over the years, recently, probably have become worse, we do not attend to the needs of the people. The very sensitive areas, the most critical areas of people's lives. Look at the cost of living, the issue of fuel, the issue of housing levy. All these are things that actually the people have expressed their concern that they were hurting us. We did not take heed. Mr. Speaker, as a parliament, we represent the people. We have a duty to oversight the executive. And the people expect that the representatives they elected will protect them should we have an executive that has gone rogue or an executive that has have excesses. And Mr. Speaker, as a parliament, we did not do that. As we discuss this, Mr. Speaker, we must start to listen to the people. We must start, as a matter of urgency, Mr. Speaker, to rebuild the confidence of the people in this parliament. We are going to have vetting to do. We must really go out and listen, because the problems are not solved yet. The Gen Zs are still out there. We appeal to them, and we should. But the most important thing, it is them who are appealing to us to change our ways. The only way we can appeal to the Gen Zs is actually respond to them by changing our ways and listening to them. That is really what we need to do. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we have to think much about this. If you have been shown the way, let's follow the way. My concern, I repeat, Mr. Speaker, as I sit down, how do we start to build the confidence of the people of Kenya in this house, in parliament? If we do not do that, the people will always come out to express themselves, and it will not be always in ways that are acceptable, that are safe, that are peaceful, but they will express themselves. We must realize that in the presidential system, this house in totally oversights the executive. And therefore, it should not matter which side we are in. If something is not good for the people, it's not good for the people, and the people's expectation that this house will stop such things. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support this first supplementary, which, as I said, is basically a revision of the 24-25 budget. I support.
Honorable Alice Nganga, MP for Thika Town.
Thank you.
And members, I want to take a bit of time on our female MPs for good reasons.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise also to support Supplementary Budget 1 of 2024-2025 because though it came early, Mr. Speaker, because of the austerity measures that we are undertaking after we dropped the finance bill, Mr. Speaker, I know there are so many cuts in this budget, but we have to live with it because that is how things are. And we have to live in our means. Mr.